Roosevelt.
Former President Trump used Twitter, a social media platform, to communicate directly to Americans, rather than holding traditional press conferences where reporters could ask him difficult questions. Throughout history, new communication technologies have changed the mankind and nature of politics. This is best illustrated by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who heavily used the then new radio technology to communicate with the public. The radio, like other human inventions, had profound impact on societies and politics. The first major human communication invention was language, and it allowed humans to form groups and act in concert. After the creation of language, the invention of alphabets and writing allowed knowledge to be stored and transported far and wide for the first time. However, writing had its limitations. Not many books could be created since human scribes had to handwrite each book on paper scrolls, and it was very expensive. Because it was hard to make copies of the scrolls, there were only a few great libraries, like the ancient library in Alexandria, Egypt, that stored knowledge. Books like the Bible were eventually created, but not many people had access to them. All this changed in 1439, when Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press, man's written words to be efficiently and cheaply copied and distributed. Printing soon helped political ideas to spread and break the rule of monarchs and the Catholic Church in Europe. Centuries later, the inventions of the train and the telegraph allowed news and newspapers to spread even faster, and newspaper barons to become very powerful politically, such as William Randolph Hearst, whose paper may have single-handedly caused the U.S. to go to war with Spain in 1898. But new technology, radio, allowed news to be spread even more quickly and go directly to the population. Systematic radio broadcasting began in the United States in 1920 when stations KDKA in Pittsburgh and WWJ in Detroit went on air. Still, in the 1920s, very few people had radios, and radio's impact on the public was minor. But this number began to grow, and by 1938, an estimated 91% of urban households and 70% of rural homes had one radio receiver. They were even installed in cars. President Franklin D. Roosevelt was the first president to use this new communication medium in a meaningful way, and it is what helped him lead Americans out of the Great Depression and World War II. The causes of the Great Depression were many and varied, but the impact was visible nationwide. FDR had a daunting task and had to convince Congress to pass many federal programs and statutes. He needed to get the public backing his proposals. The radio was a way for him to directly reach Americans as well as connect himself to the concerns of daily Americans. Speaking directly to Americans in their homes allowed him to 1. Bypass the newspapers that would editorialize what he answered to reporters, and 2. Connect emotionally with the American people. Let us take a look at his first fireside chat on March 12, 1933. This came only 8 days after his March 4, 1933 inauguration. 2 days into his presidency, FDR declared a bank holiday, which would shut down the banks, and Congress passing the Emergency Bank Act, which stated the federal government would reopen only healthy banks on March 13th. The night before March 13th, FDR undertook a fireside chat and spoke to 60 million Americans listening in plain language that any American could understand.
Confidence and courage are the essentials of success in carrying out our plan. You people must have faith. You must not be stampeded by rumors or guesses. Let us unite in banishing fear. We have provided the machinery to restore our financial system, and it is up to you to support and make it work. It is your problem, my friends, your problem no less than it is mine. Together, we cannot fail.
On March 13th, when the banks reopened, Americans lined up to return their cash. March 15th, the first day stock traded after the banking holiday, saw the market's largest ever one-day percentage price increase. Less than 2 short months later, on Sunday night, May 7th, 1933, FDR again did a radio fireside chat with the American people to directly speak to the Americans about all the legislation he was seeking for Congress to pass to help the United States get out of the Great Depression.
The members of the Congress and the members of this administration owe a profound debt of gratitude Throughout the Depression, you have been patient. You have granted us wide powers. You have encouraged us with a widespread approval of our purposes. Every ounce of strength, every resource at our command, we have devoted and we are devoting to the end of justifying your confidence. We are encouraged to believe that a wise and sensible beginning has
To
been
the
made.
American people, it was as if the President of the United States was standing in their living room, speaking directly to each family. For that second fireside chat, the CBS station manager who assisted in that production, Harold Butcher, dubbed the speeches fireside chats. That name stuck. In response to the fireside chats, thousands of letters have begun pouring into the Roosevelt White House every day, many of them expressing gratitude for the president's words. Some accused him of socialist propaganda. On balance, FDR found the fireside chats to be very helpful and undertook 28 more over the next 12 years at key moments in his presidency. But this powerful new communication medium where leaders could connect and speak directly to the citizenry could also be used for evil leaders. At the same time that FDR was using radio to communicate with Americans to get the US out of the Great Depression, Hitler had come to power in Germany and was using the radio together with films to continue to consolidate his power in Germany and eventually make him the dictator of Germany. On August 18, 1933, just a few short months after FDR started his fireside chats, Hitler's government started giving out radios called Volksempfänger, People's Receiver, to the German citizens at very low prices so Hitler could directly speak to the German people. Hitler designed these radios for German people, so they were weak and couldn't get radio stations outside of Germany. Later, when Hitler and Germany started World War II and invaded other countries, Hitler made it a criminal act for any German to listen to a radio station outside of Germany. After using the radio to help America get out of the Great Depression, then FDR used the radio to help America beat Hitler and the Axis in World War II.
Never before, since Jamestown and Plymouth Rock, has our American civilization been in such danger as now. Frankly and definitely, there is danger ahead.
FDR used the power of the new radio technology to lead the American people out of the Great Depression and victory in World War II. Hitler, by contrast, used the new technology for evil that led to the Holocaust and massacre of millions of Jews, World War II, and the near utter ruin of Germany. After Roosevelt died and Truman became president, Truman's aides urged him to stay away from the airwaves to avoid comparisons to Roosevelt's unusually fine radio voice that kept us through the years. It wasn't until 1980, when Ronald Reagan became president, that regular radio addresses by a president to the public resumed. Unlike FDR, who would do a fireside chat across several months, President Reagan did a weekly radio chat to the public. The next president, George H. Bush, chose not to do radio chats with the public, but both President Clinton and George W. Bush again did weekly radio chats with the public. Similarly, President Obama did a weekly presentation to the American public, but he released it as a video on social media. President Trump did weekly addresses in 2017, shortly after he took office, but he ditched them for his rallies. Note that directly connecting with the public like FDR did with his fireside chats appeared to help the presidents. After all, Reagan, Clinton, George W. Bush, and Obama were all re-elected, while George H. Bush and Trump, who chose not to do weekly chats with the public, were not.
Dear Mrs. Roosevelt, don't hang your head and cry.